had questions. I was asking them, are you guys PCSing? Did y'all get orders somewhere? And they were like, no. I was like, okay, are you guys having a kid or something y'all expecting? Because it was a husband and wife. And I mean, the house was, like I said, it was pretty big. It was really nice, but maybe they needed more space. So I was asking if they were like, are y'all having a kid or something? And they were like, no. These answers was definitely red flag after red flag after red flag, okay? But my dumb ass ignored them. We ignored all the flags, ignored them. So it took us like 30 days to actually, go through the contract with housing and stuff in Germany. It was really weird. But when it was time for us to like get the keys and move in, the landlord was out of town. And he was like, oh, you could just go to the old tenant's new place and get the keys from them. They have keys. So we put in their new address and it's like 5 minutes away. We're like, what? So we pull up. It's a block behind the house. So I'm thinking, oh, they done came up. Okay, they didn't move too far. We ring the doorbell. They invite us in. It's the same house. It's the same layout. The view is different. And the view at the house that we're about to move into is better, but it's the same layout. 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It looked the same. That day, they really weren't trying to talk too much neither. They were just really like, hurry up, here's the key, and go about your business. That was another red flag. We should have known. I should have known. But anyways, we end up moving into this house, right? And first couple months is chill. Until one day I'm in the shower and I'm pretty sure I'm home alone and the door starts to creak open. Like it just starts to creak open. I'm like, what the fuck? So where the door is and where I'm at in the shower, I can see the mirror. Like I should be able to see somebody in the door. So I'm looking in the mirror to try to see if it's like my boyfriend, and I don't see anything. Mind you, I can't see in the first place. Like I don't have my glasses on. I can't see in the first place. And the mirror's kind of foggy. So I'm like, maybe I just can't see him. So I call out his name and then the door just slams shut. So at this point, I'm like the perfect mixture of scared as fuck and mad as hell. Cause I know it has to be I know he has to be playing a fucking joke. Like I know he playing. So I get out the shower, I grab my phone. It's in the bathroom still. And I call him and I'm going off because I was yelling his name as I was getting out the shower. And as soon as he answers the phone, I'm telling you, I'm going off. And then I finally just shut up and I can hear that he's not at home. He is at work. Like I can hear work noises in the background. And he's confused. He's like, why the fuck are you going off on me? And I'm like, I thought you were in the house. Like, I thought you opened the bathroom door and wasn't saying anything and slammed it shut. He was like, I'm not even there. So now I'm not angry. I'm just scared. But my boyfriend was like, well, maybe it's, so-and-so. I think like 3 other people had keys to our house at the time. So I called all 3 of them. I'm still in the bathroom in a towel. And they're all somewhere else. They're at work or at the gym, at the store, or something. They are not here. I am here alone. I called my boyfriend back and I'm like, you need to get home. Like, you need to get home now. So I finally get the courage up to like run across the hall to our bedroom and like hide and at least put on some clothes. I want to, be able to defend myself. He gets home and nobody's in the house. House is locked up. And he thinks I'm crazy. But guess what started to happen after that day? All of the fucking doors if you left the door open, that bitch would slam shut. And my boyfriend at the time, he would try to like write it off like, oh, maybe it's just the wind. Maybe the house is just settling. The doors are slamming shut. So whenever I had people over, I would just tell them, when you come into a room, close the door behind you or it's going to get slammed shut. At some point, we're going to be sitting here chilling and the door just going to slam shut. And I know what y'all probably thinking, bitch, why you didn't just move? I had like 9 months left on my orders and no money to break this lease. So me and the ghost, we were just gonna hang out. But anyways, a bunch of other shit would happen. Like I remember one day specifically, I would tell my friends that I think this house is fucking haunted. Like I think something is in here. My homeboy, he didn't believe me. He would always come over and antagonize the ghost. But ain't no ghost in here, and he would get fucked up. But that is a different story time. But I remember one day, me, my guy best friend, and my girl best friend, we were sitting downstairs. We were watching a movie or something. And we knew that we were the only ones in the house. We could hear someone upstairs walking around and opening and shutting doors. The 3 of us are all people of color, okay? My homegirl looked at us and she was like, y'all hungry? Anybody want to go to KFC? Anybody? We just got up and left, y'all. We got up and left. None of us was finna go investigate. If somebody was up there, they could have a fucking house. I didn't give a shit. We would just get up and leave. And yes, my friends kept coming to my fucking house, even though it was haunted, because everybody was living on the dorms and we were the only ones with the place. So, but I think the craziest thing started happening like 2 months before I actually PCS and like got up out of there. I would be like laying on the couch, like taking a nap, and my boyfriend at the time would be playing video games in the living room. And I would have the craziest sleep paralysis. Like it would be like I heard our front door open and I could hear two people like walking in the house and they're arguing. I can't make out what they're saying and I can't move and I can't see. I could just hear them arguing. I'm like whimpering. Like I remember like trying to like scream. I feel like I'm screaming, but like nothing's coming out. And I would be like whimpering or whatever. And eventually my boyfriend would be like, would shake my leg and like I would wake up and they're like, did you hear that? Did you see that? I literally would get so scared, like falling asleep in the living room because it would always be like two people arguing, but I would be in this like sleep paralysis and I could hear them like their tone was like they were arguing, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. But yeah, my husband, he didn't want to believe me for a while. Like I would tell him when we first met, like, yeah, I used to live in a haunted house. And he didn't believe me until my homegirl, the one that was like, y'all wanna go get some food? Y'all wanna leave? Until she came to town and she told him like all of the stories because it was a wild time.
Okay, I think everyone that knows me knows that I have to hop on this trend. So just to preface this, I am actually a retired Ghostbuster. I filmed a couple episodes of an actual ghost hunting show. So I've had some crazy things happen to me during filming, but the craziest thing happened to me after filming. So one of the places we went to is one of the most haunted bars in America, which is actually now being torn down, which it absolutely should be. So going into it, I actually wasn't that nervous because I was like, it's a bar. Been to plenty of them. I'll feel right at home. And prior to this, we had filmed like a month before at one of the most haunted hospitals in America. Going into that, I was terrified because of the history behind it and how massive the place was. And we film at night every time. So like we would film from like 9 p.m. to like 5 a.m. But I actually left that hospital with good feeling. Like that place was not evil. I did not feel scared being in there or leaving after. This bar was evil. So one of the points of the show, like one of the biggest parts of the show, is that you have to go in by yourself and film a little bit. So completely by yourself in these haunted places, middle of the night. So I filmed twice by myself in this bar. The first night I filmed upstairs, which was like the actual bar area. And then the second night I filmed downstairs, which was in the basement. So the first night, some weird shit happened, but it is what it is. Like it freaked me out, but it didn't send chills down my spine like the second night did. The second night, I am sitting in this pitch black basement completely by myself. It's just me sitting in a chair, middle of the basement with the like my camera propped on a table in front of me. We had equipment set up like in different areas of the bar and in the basement. So I'm sitting there in the pitch black by myself. All of a sudden, I hear in one of the rooms, like way back in the other side of the basement, I hear one of our motion sensors go off and it just like beeps. And that means that something is walking in front of it, like spiritually. So I'm sitting there, pitch black silence. I hear that beeping behind me, already freaked out, but not even scared. There was just something that came over me that was like, you need to leave. You should not be here. You need to leave. I kept trying to fight that because I was like, I need to film. I need to be here. And then all of a sudden, I feel a hand on my lower back pushing me forward. Like not hard. It was like a gentle push on my lower back. And forward, like the direction it was pushing me happened to be the exit. The door to the outside was like on the other side of the basement, straight ahead in front of me. And that's the direction that the hand was pushing me. But like I said, it was a very gentle push. It wasn't like an aggressive push. It felt very gentle. And that was enough for me to be like, I'm gonna get out of here. So I walk out and I just burst into tears. I can't explain it. I burst into tears. I was so overwhelmed. I just felt so heavy. I felt like whatever was in that basement did not want me to be there. And that something else was telling me to leave. So that happens, which is crazy and scary enough. But the craziest thing happens that night when I already leave. I get back to my apartment in Nashville, which is like 4 hours away. I drive back to Nashville, get back to my apartment, and I go to bed. I wake up in the middle of the night. I would say probably like 2 or 3 a.m. I'm not entirely sure. And I see a hand coming through my wall. It was like a grayish blue hand, I'd say from like the wrist up, reaching through my wall. It just literally looked like it was desperately trying to get through my wall. And I froze. I remember thinking like, am I just half asleep? Like, what am I seeing right now? But I blinked a couple times and it didn't go away. So for reference, like this is my bed. Hi, Bodhi. This is my bed. That's the wall. And I didn't have those pictures at the time. So it was just like an empty wall. The hand was reaching through. So I'm just frozen in fear at this point, and I'm staring at it. I didn't even want to close my eyes because I was so afraid of what would happen if I closed my eyes. So I'm staring at it, but then I just kind of like looked down. I didn't want to look directly at it. So I just kind of looked down. And for about 20 or 30 seconds, just I can see it reaching through, trying to reach through. Until finally I can just see it all of a sudden be pulled back into the wall, and it's gone forever. Never saw it again, never felt it again. I didn't even feel the heaviness that I was feeling anymore. The only thing I can think of is there was something protecting me when I was in that basement, telling me to leave. And then there was something protecting me from whatever might have attached to me that took it away when I came home. So thank you to whoever, whatever that is. I appreciate you and I love you. And stay out of haunted bars. You don't need to be in them. Bodhi says so.
Okay, when I was younger, probably like 13, 14, 15 years old, somewhere around that time, I would always fall asleep on the couch at night watching TV. I didn't have a TV in my bedroom, so I would fall asleep on the couch at night watching TV. And my mom would always like yell at me the next day about sleeping on the couch. Like, when you're sleepy, go to bed. Well, one night I was babysitting my little cousin. He was about like 1 or 2. And we both fell asleep on the couch watching TV, right? So he's sleeping behind me on the couch so that he doesn't fall off and hurt himself. And, you know, I fall asleep. And at some point in the night, I wake up. And when I wake up, my little cousin is no longer like behind me. He is now kind of like laying over my body, kind of hanging off the couch, right? And so I'm like, whoa, what's this kid doing, right? So I pick him up, I put him back, I fall asleep again. Later on, I wake up again, right? And I don't know what's waking me up, right? I just know I'm waking up, right? Kind of, I don't know. I like almost like intuitively, I'm waking up. And this time when I wake up, this kid is now down the couch, head facing the opposite direction of me, down by my knees, right? Now he's down by my knees. And I'm like, what is going on with this kid? Like, he never sleeps crazy like this. I've never had this happen with him. So I just get up, I get him, I put him back. You know, he's not awake, he's knocked out, he's, you know, hard asleep. And then I go back to sleep. So then a little bit later, I wake up for a third time. This time, my little cousin is all the way down the couch, body hanging over the arm of the couch on the opposite end, like just hanging over it, right? And at this point, I'm like freaked out because I'm like, there's no way this kid is getting up and moving himself in these weird positions. And it's freaking me out. And I'm more like, I feel like someone is trying to steal my baby cousin. And so I wake up, my little crazy teenage self, I wake up, I get him, I put him back, I sit up, and I just kind of stay awake. I'm like convinced that something's trying to steal my baby. I don't know what, but I'm going to stay awake because it's not happening on my watch, right? So I stay up all night. The next day I tell my mom, and she's all like, Ebony, you're not supposed to be sleeping on the couch anyway, right? That's kind of how she takes it, right? So whatever. Fast motherfucking forward. I fall asleep on the couch by myself one day. And for some reason, in the middle of the night, I wake up. And when I wake up and I look over, there is this little short, gremlin looking monster person, like really, really short, tall enough that my face laying down on the couch and his face are level, just standing in front of me, just staring at me. I mean, just staring, not saying anything, not moving, but just like staring me down. I freak out. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. I freak out. I grab the cover, I turn my back to it, I cover my head, and I just start to pray. I just start praying all the prayers my grandma ever taught me, just praying, just praying. And I guess I must have prayed and laid there like, if I don't move and it can't see my face, it can't hurt me type deal until I fell asleep. And then the next day I woke up and I told my mom, and she was like, Ebony, you probably just had a really bad dream. That probably was a nightmare. It probably just felt like it was real. And I was like, no, 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 it was real. And I'm convinced that whatever the hell that was tried to steal my baby cousin. And I don't care who believes me. I don't care if my mom believes me. I don't care if she thinks I had a nightmare. I never fell asleep on that couch again. And I know something was trying to steal my baby cousin that night. That's all I got to say.
The night before my 16th birthday, I had something come into my bedroom. So I'm going to preface this by saying the night before my 4th birthday, my mom's mom passed away. So it's the middle of the night. I didn't have a clock in my room. So I'm going to guess by how long it took for the sun to come up that it was probably around 4 o'clock in the morning. And at this point in my life, I had 2 cats and they slept in bed with me with the door closed. And I woke up because they were both absolutely freaking out. And at the foot of my bed is a woman. She is turned away from me. She's got long, like black hair, white nightgown. First, I think it's my mom. And then I realize this woman is like wet, like soaking wet. And she gets up. And when she stands up, it freaks one of my cats out. And she scratched me, which is how I know I wasn't asleep during this, because the next day, still had a scratch. And she kind of turns and starts to walk towards, the side of the bed that I'm on, kind of turn the corner and come up towards like the head of my bed. And when I see her face, I freeze. It can't move, can't blink, like just staring like straight ahead, won't really like look at her after I saw her face. And her skin is like a bluish gray color. Her eyes are completely black. And she has like, all of her teeth are all pointed to like sharp points. And she is like smiling this like crazy big smile towards me as she's looking at me and moving up towards my face. And she gets next to my head and she kneels down and is just staring at me. And I don't move for hours, it felt like. And then the sun finally starts to come up. And when it does, she stands up and turns around towards the wall. And there's a door there that goes into the attic. And she just like walked straight through the door. And as soon as she's gone, I am like up out of my bed, door open, bolting down the steps to go to my mother. And I am like visibly upset as I tell her what happened. And she starts to get upset and tells me that she thinks it's her fault because the night before, the night of my grandmother's like death anniversary, she had like kind of prayed, reached out to the universe and asked for a sign that there was like a life after death, that my grandma was okay, asked for my grandma to like speak to her. And she felt like, she opened a door for this thing to come into our house. Unfortunately, this is not the only time that something has happened to our family. My son, when we lived in my mom's house later when he was 2, and this is a different house, had multiple experiences with something in the home. My mom's house has its own thing going on. There's like multiple stories I could tell you of things happening in that house. My great grandma's house had multiple things going on where multiple family members witnessed or experienced something. Even when my mom's dad passed away a few years ago, there is a recording that you can hear on the recording, like ghosts or spirits or something like talking to my grandpa as he dies, including my mom's mom. So if you want any story times about any of those, let me know in the comments.
So my kids never met my grandparents. They passed when they were really young and they lived out of state. and my grandfather like lived in an assisted living home. He had really bad Alzheimer's, and my kids never met them. He passed away first, and this happened when my oldest son was 3 years old. And on the day that it happened, I got a phone call telling me, but I didn't say anything to my kids about it because they were 1 and 3. They didn't know him, and I just like didn't think that they would understand and didn't want to upset them. So on that day, I put my son down for his nap, and after a little while, like I could just tell he wasn't asleep and he wasn't going to go to sleep. So I went and got him out, and he was like all happy and excited, and he told me, "I love the ghost." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "There's a ghost in my room." And at first, I really didn't like think much into it, just because like kids say random stuff, and I don't know, but it was weird because like ghosts aren't something that we would have talked about, and this was in like April or May, so it wasn't like around Halloween or like a time where he'd be like hearing about ghosts or thinking about them. So I'm like, what did it look like? And he said, it's a man, he's old, he has white hair, and he's really small. And this is where it really freaked me out, because my grandfather was obviously like white hair and old. He was in his 80s, but he was really short, and in his last few years he had gotten very, very thin because of his illness. So he was very small, and like, okay, like what did he do? What did he say? And he said, he came to say hi to me. I'm like, is he still there? Like, where did he go? He goes, no, he went into the light. And for me, like, I totally believe that that was his spirit coming to visit. But I did have some family members that were like, oh, it's just a coincidence. Like, kids just like tell funny things. Like, it's a coincidence that it was on the same day. So then 4 or 5 months later, my grandmother passes away. And kind of like a backstory to this is the last few months, my dad and uncles were kind of no contact with her. So she had called me randomly one day and asked me if I would be her medical contact. And I said yes. And she was like, I just want you to understand what this means is like, if I pass, you will be the person that is contacted and you'll have to inform the family. And she just seemed like it really meant a lot to her for me to do that. So I said yes. So this day I got the call and informed the family. And again, like my kids were 1 and 3. I didn't explain it to them or tell them anything. Like they might have seen me upset, but I didn't like say anything about what was going on. That night I was tucking them into bed, and my 3-year-old said, there's a ghost in here with us. So I'm like, what do they look like? And he said, it's a girl, she's old, she has white hair, and she's here to tell you thank you. Now, you cannot tell me that it's a coincidence, and nothing like that has happened again. It's been about 4 years. He's never talked about seeing a ghost or a spirit or anything like that. In fact, like he doesn't even remember this. Now he's almost 7.
Let me start off by saying I don't talk about this often because when I do, I sound crazy. A few years ago, I was gifted two purses by my ex-boyfriend's dad's friend. I accepted the purses, and I noticed that I was having these reoccurring nightmares with this lady in each nightmare. So one night, I fell asleep. My ex-boyfriend was sitting at the computer. He's gaming and whatnot. This lady pops up in my dream, but this dream is a little bit different because she was jumping in everybody that I loved's body and trying to get them to themselves in a frozen lake. So I was pulling them away, and she didn't like that very much. And then she refocuses on me, and she's running after me, and I'm running, but it's, you know how in dreams, like you can't run very fast, like it's always in slow-mo or you punch slow. Well, in this dream, I was running fast. And each time that I was looking back at her, she was gaining on me. And I got a glimpse of pretty much all of her features, like what she was wearing, what her hair looked like. It was black. It curled into her neck, and she just looked very mad. So eventually this lady, she gets me. She was wearing like a blue, long, almost Victorian type dress. She had black straight hair that curled into her neck. And she looked very mad. And So she eventually gets me, and I was woken up by my ex-boyfriend, who said that I sat straight up in bed and started hyperventilating with my eyes rolled in the back of my head. I woke up absolutely terrified. I had no idea what was going on. He had no idea what was going on. He thought I was having a seizure of some sort, and I was petrified to go to sleep. I called my grandma and I explained to her what was going on. I told her, I'm tired of this. Like, it's causing me to lose sleep. I don't want to fall asleep. I don't want to see this lady anymore. I don't understand who she is or why this is happening, but I feel like I'm being haunted. So then, fast forward to a few days later, I see Joe again. I need to make a part 2.
So I lived in multiple haunted houses. I talked about it a lot on here. I have a whole series of creepy, spooky stories that y'all can listen to. But one house I never really spoke about was the house that I lived in when my son was a newborn, when I brought my son home. And I guess I never really talked about it because I had such positive experiences. Because in other houses, I've experienced some crazy things, some residual hauntings, and all types of stuff. But in that house, I called the ghosts in that house my helpers, my second hands, or my babysitters, because they really helped me out. Like, for example, they would alert me of certain things, like if I was in another room and like my son needed me, and if I didn't hear him, or if I wasn't awake, if I'd fallen asleep, they would find ways to wake me up. And it was a normal occurrence after a while. So for example, I was really nervous, so I would stay up all night. Just I wanted to be awake in case the baby woke up, in case I needed to just I was just really, really nervous. So like, for example, they would like make the TV glitch. So one night I'm watching a movie, the TV glitches. I'm like, maybe it's the Wi-Fi, turn it off, turn it back on. Like, nothing was working. So I'm not really too worried about it because I'm scrolling on Twitter all night. And I can hear the TV turns back on, and the guy's like, the kid, get the kid. And then it shuts off again. And I'm like, so I got up and I went in the room, and my kid had been choking and I didn't know. So just for example, but one morning, because I stayed up until the sun came up and I'm exhausted. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through the day. It was a lot. And I was dealing with like postpartum and things like that. So it was just a lot in that moment. And I just started to fall asleep when I could hear somebody in the hallway. And I knew, like, I'd grown accustomed to hearing the different creaks, and I could tell like where somebody was in the house or which direction they were going, if they were going to the bathroom, if they're going in the kitchen, by the creaks in the floor, because it was an old house. But I hear somebody in the hallway and I hear my door creak open, but I don't feel I don't feel scared, and I didn't hear the front door. I didn't hear anything. So it didn't really worry me. I felt somebody sit on the side of the bed, and I was like, okay, I can go to sleep. Because to me, it felt like my babysitter has him. Like, they're going to watch him. They're going to wake me up if I need it. Like, so everything is fine. 10 years later, I'm experimenting with microdosing, just trying to work through some things and trying to understand some things and get past some things. And I was really frustrated. I was going through it, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm trying to journal. It's just not working. So I was like, I just don't want to feel the way that I'm feeling. So I'm just going to go to sleep, cover my head, lay down. I'm going to sleep. I feel somebody walk into my room. So I'm basically crying out to my higher self, crying out to somebody giving me some sort of guidance, because I don't know what to do. And I know that I need something. So I can feel her. She feels like an older version of me. She feels like a wiser version of me. She's way calmer than me. She's way more sure. And she's telling me things. She's telling me how she just put in a lot of my worries at ease. She's telling me about my child. She's telling me about myself. And she's just telling me that it's going to be okay. And I'm like, thank you, but that's not enough. Tell me what to do. What can I do? Because there has to be something that I can do, because I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I'm not doing the right things. And she's like, I know what you can do. You can go back to a version of yourself who could use the guidance that you have now. Because there's a version of you who feels hopeless the way that you feel now. So you can go help her. So I'm like, okay, immediately like that, I'm back in that hallway, and I'd forgotten everything about that house. I'd forgotten what it looked like. I'd forgotten what just everything felt like. And I walked down that hallway and I pushed the door open, like slowly. And I see the baby bassinet. I see the sun beaming in the room, the curtains, little details of things that I've forgotten completely. And I see just a big lump on the bed under like a comforter. And I walk up to the bed and I sit at the foot of the bed and I put my hand on her back and I'm just talking to her. And I didn't really know what to say. So I'm just telling her, I'm like, he's okay. He grows up. He's beautiful. Like, I'm just telling her all the things that I felt like she may have needed to hear. Yeah. And I don't know if anybody's going to believe that I haunted myself, but I haunted myself.
I used to be a photographer. I started my junior year of high school when I joined Yearbook. So I started doing photography around 16 and I stopped around 27. Started my own little photography business and I did it for 10 years and made some good money and memories. So one of my friends, they asked me to do a photo shoot for them. No big deal. But they wanted me to do a photo shoot with their new boyfriend. Now, I think I might have told the story time before, but I didn't tell it into too much detail. The friend I did the photo shoot for recently had a loss of her partner. I'm not gonna lie, I think their relationship was over 10 years. They were high school sweethearts, had over 6 kids together. And after he passed away, it wasn't even 3 months afterwards till she got somebody new. But I'm not judging because you do you. So we're in this new romance. And long story short, she's like, hey, can we do a couple photo shoot for that year's Valentine's Day? I'm like, yeah, perfect. She pays me head up. And I'm like, good, let's get it started. So at her photo shoot, she brings her youngest daughter. And, I'm just like, oh, she doesn't have a babysitter. No big deal, right? Right. We're doing a photo shoot. They arrive late, but Black people time. My photo shoots, they're always a mood. 2 hours later, the music is playing, the food's going, we're snapping, literally. You're probably not wondering this, but the reason why I'm not a photographer anymore is because I began to realize I take pictures for people so good, and this is petty, but anytime somebody has to take a picture for me, even with my good equipment, they have me looking like Trick Daddy. So during the last moments of the photo shoot, she asks us for her daughter to get into a couple shots. So I'm thinking it's just going to be her and her daughter. No, it's her and her daughter and the new man. So I start to get cold chills and I'm uncomfortable because I'm like, ooh, this is a little soon. But who am I to judge? Because, bitch, you're paid to take a picture. Click, click. A girl, as soon as the little girl gets into the picture and I'm trying to get them in the right positions and stuff like that, I get a cold chill over my back. My intuition is on high. Of course, I'm not listening to it, even though I should. Rule number 1, always listen to your intuition, even if it doesn't make you the popular one in this scenario. Your intuition is your body's spiritual alarm system. Listen wisely. So I begin taking the pictures. I get goosebumps down my back, cold chills. Then it's February. We got the heat on and the photography lights. There's no need for coldness. And even my friend, she was like, did you feel a cold chill? And I said, no, because what you give energy to, you give power to. I was on some, if you ignore it, it'll go away, even though I know better. I just simply did not want to feed what was ever in. So they leave. And of course, whenever I did a photo shoot in my mom's living room, because she has a big living room. Long story short, as I'm cleaning up and taking down like my backdrops and all that stuff, and I had food out because I like to give my clients like food and stuff just to make them comfortable. So I begin to do the dishes. I got to go to the bathroom and pee. I come out of the bathroom for peeing and I see on my living room couch, there's a man sitting there. So I continue doing the dishes. Then I was like, bitch, you're the only one in your mama house. Who the fuck is that? Now, if y'all know from other story times, my grandma and my mom, they're heavy psychics. I don't see spirits like that, maybe once every 3 to 2 years. So I turn back around and I see that it's my friend's deceased partner. Now, we knew each other in life, so I was like, can I help you? And as soon as those words left my mouth, I blinked and then he was gone. So I was like, oh, well. So then I'm like, ooh, I'm not staying in here tonight. So I go to my friend's house. I don't tell my mom, who's in her back bedroom, what I seen, because I know how she is. And she's like, you can't bring everything in the house. You got to be careful because you never know what people carry with them and shit like that. And I get that. I've been told that my whole life. But so I don't tell my mom. I'm over at my friend's house. We up late. We talking, just gossiping, talking mad shit. I get a call from my mom. It's 4 a.m. I'm like, what is she doing calling me? Because I left her house about 9 p.m. She's like, bitch. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I'm nervous because It's just my mom. And she's like, who the fuck is this at the end of my bed? And I'm like, what you mean? She said, bitch, don't play dumb with me. She's like, who the fuck you let in my house? And I'm like, Mom, what do you mean? She says, bitch, don't play dumb with me, ho. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. She said, ho, I'm gonna see you in the morning and it's gonna be up. I'm like, oh. And it's not like he haunted or was malevolent, or because you can sense the difference if you're really tuned in. So then I'm like, okay, Ma, I'll handle it. I threw some salt on the floor and then swept it up. It didn't do shit, and she knew I was buying time. So the next night, I'm asleep, right? A bitch wake up in the middle of the night because I'm thirsty. I'm a thirsty hoe at night. Guess who's sitting on the chair in the dining room? Just sad and slumped over. I said, bitch, let me get this over with. So not to be anticlimactic, I called my friend up. I said, bitch, you moving too fast. Show some respect, have some decency, have some time. And everything went back fine. And she did.
There was a time in my relationship when I thought my boyfriend had fell out of love with me. I mean, he went days without touching me or kissing me. I felt like he was being very distant and unloving. I wanted to know how my boyfriend would react if I left without telling him anything. So I wrote him a letter saying that I was tired of him and I didn't want to live with him anymore. I knew it was real petty and real childish for me to write this letter. But baby, I needed to know how my boyfriend really felt about me. I mean, it was like a prank or something, right? So after I wrote the letter, I set the letter on our nightstand next to our bed so he could easily find it, because that's where he put his watch after he takes it off his wrist. Anyways, I climbed up under our bed and I hid until he got home. I was hoping that he was going to be really upset when he found that letter and he see that I'm not home. About 10 minutes later, I heard my boyfriend walk through the front door and he was walking towards our bedroom. I'm peeking from up under the bed and I seen him grab the letter and he read it. After a little bit of silence, he grabbed a pen and he wrote something down on the letter. Now I'm wondering, what could he have added to this letter? Then I seen him head to our closet and he was getting all dressed up. While he was doing that, he seemed happy. He was bouncing around the room, dancing and singing. Baby, I ain't gonna lie, I was getting hurt. My feelings was getting hurt, okay? I'm thinking to myself, why isn't he heartbroken? But things only got worse. My boyfriend picked up his phone and he started to dial a number. So I started to tune in to see who he was calling. I heard him talking on the phone and he said, hey, sweetheart, I'm just changing my clothes. I'll be there in a little bit. I heard that and I was like, oh, no wonder why he wasn't heartbroken. Tears started to fall down my eyes. Before he hung up the phone, he said, I think my girlfriend finally found out that I was cheating on her, so she left. He said, I wish I had met you before I met her. And then he hung up the phone. After that, he walked out the room. I heard our front door open and then close, so my boyfriend was gone. That's when I climbed out from under the bed. I wanted to see what my cheating boyfriend wrote on this letter. So I read the letter and it said, I seen your feet up under the bed, you idiot. I'm going out to buy eggs. One day while I was doing the dishes, I heard a knock on my door. It was my next door neighbor, Sarah. Sarah asked me could I house sit for her for a few days because she was going away on a business trip. She told me that she'll be back in 3 days and she'll pay me $100 for each day I house sit. I didn't want to pass up this opportunity, so I told her yes. She thanked me, and before she left my house, she gave me the keys to her house. When she was walking out the door, she turned around and she said, oh, by the way, don't worry about my bulldog, Bob. He won't bother you. Then she said, but whatever you do, do not, under any circumstances, talk to my parrot. I repeat, do not talk to my parrot. I thought that was funny, but I said, okay. After she left my house, I went upstairs and showered, and then I headed to her house. When I got to her house, she was already gone, but I used her keys to open up the front door. As soon as I opened the front door, I seen Bob. He was the biggest, meanest looking bulldog ever, but I just walked past him and then I sat down on the couch. And Sarah was right. Bob did not bother me after all. So I decided to watch a little TV. Out of nowhere, I heard the parrot. He was sitting in a cage in the living room. The parrot just started cursing me out and calling me names. Now I tried to do as Sarah said and not say anything to the parrot. So I tried to turn the TV up so I couldn't hear the parrot no more. But the parrot just got louder, still cursing me out. And I couldn't take it no more, so I started yelling at the parrot. I said, shut up, you stupid, ugly bird. Not too long after that, I heard the parrot say, get her, Bob. A couple years ago, me and my husband was invited to a Halloween party. But when the night of the party came, I had got a big headache, so I decided not to go. I told my husband that he can go on and go to the party without me. He wanted to stay home with me, but I told him that I was just going to take a Tylenol and go to bed. There was no reason that he should miss out on having fun. So he took his costume and went to the party. About 2 hours passed and I woke up out my sleep. But when I woke up, my headache was gone and it was still early, so I decided to go to the party. I decided to not text or call my husband to let him know that I was on my way to the party. I wanted to see how he acted when I wasn't around. And he didn't know what my costume was, which made it even better. When I got to the party, as soon as I walked through the door, I seen my husband on the dance floor. I saw him dancing with every chick he could. And not only that, he was also feeling on them. So I decided to walk up to him and seduce him to see what he'll do. He stopped dancing with the other girl and he started dancing with me. I let him go as far as he wished, since he was my husband after all. Finally, he whispered something in my ear. And not long after that, we went to the bathroom to have a little privacy. And we made love. Just before everyone took their mask off at midnight, I had slipped out and went home. I put the costume away and I got into bed, wondering what kind of excuse my husband would have for acting like he wasn't married at the party. I was sitting up watching TV when he walked in, and then I asked him what did he do at the party, hoping he would tell me the truth. He said, "Oh, nothing really. You know I never have a good time when you're not there." So then I asked him, did he dance at all while he was there? He said he didn't even get to dance. As soon as he walked in the party, he met up with his buddies, and they went into the den and played poker the whole night. I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Are you sure you don't have nothing else to tell me?" He said, "In fact, yes, I do. The funniest thing happened. I loaned my costume to this random guy, and it sure looked like he had a really good time."
Have you ever seen a shadow figure before? If so, please tell.
So the first time I ever saw a shadow figure, I was 10 years old and I was spending the night at my aunt's house. She had put me to sleep and left the bedroom door open. I fell asleep for a while. Then I woke up in the middle of the night because I thought I heard my aunt in the kitchen moving stuff around. So I got out of bed and went and looked to see what she was doing. In the kitchen was a shadow figure, a full outline of a grown man. And the problem with this is that my aunt was not married and my cousin was not home at the time. He was out of town with friends. So this scared me to no end. I ran and got back in the bed and cuddled up with the blanket to the point where all I could see was just a little bit of the doorway through the blanket. And I see a black flash go past my door. The end of the hallway, my aunt's bedroom door opens and closes. I was so scared. I didn't want to get up and close the bedroom door because I didn't want this thing to come get me. So I stayed up all night long. And as soon as I heard my aunt get up, I took off running to her and told her what happened. Come to find out, she had been having a dream every single night since she had lived in this house, where at 2:36 a.m. she would wake up and she would see somebody open her bedroom door and then come and crawl into bed with her. But she would never physically see anybody do it. It actually wasn't a dream. She was waking up every single night at 2:36 and this was happening. This scared the shit out of me and obviously my aunt. So it definitely is like instilled in my brain at this point, and it's something that I will never forget. It's also the reason why I refuse to sleep with the bedroom door open anywhere I go, because I wholeheartedly believe that if you leave a door open, it allows whatever wants to come in to come in. So don't leave your doors open, any type of door for that matter. But this also was not the last time I saw a shadow figure, unfortunately.
So y'all, I have COVID, so you're gonna get a lot of content today. Okay. By the way, I don't look like this. They have a filter on here that makes me look 100% better, but I've been battling with COVID. So, like I said, you're about to get a lot of content. So first, I am going to talk about how I have the ability to see certain things. My first story is about when I rented this house, and it was a house from 1974. It was built. I don't know what it is, but whatever house I'm at, I just can see things. So I am literally one night laying down.
Within a few days, I ended up finding a roommate and finding a place. So I moved out, left that behind, never experienced that little creature or critter ever again, thank goodness. But yeah, that was a really intense understand in the times I do have to interact.
It's okay, you're gonna be fine. And we got him calm, and me and my husband both look at each other and we're like, what the hell? And like, we didn't know what was going on. But anyways, we got him calm. He fell asleep. He slept with us at night and nothing ever came of it. He never spoke of it again. It wasn't anything that like disrupted his sleep. And then we didn't hear about it for another 3 years. And the reason why I say that is because with that night that happened, I was pregnant with his brother. And fast forward to 3 years later, little brother is now in that same room, which was the nursery, and big brother has now moved to his big boy room. And I shit you not, at 3 years old, little brother gets up one night around the same time, blood-curdling scream, terrified. I jump up out of bed because at this point I've kind of forgotten about what happened, even though that was like really scary. But I go running across the hall and little brother is screaming, shaking, doing the same thing, looking at the ceiling. And once again, we get him calm. And I was just like, what's going on? Are you okay? Did you hurt yourself? And he was like, there's a man with bloody, sticky hands at the window. And I'm like, what the fuck? And all of a sudden, all those memories come flooding back. And he's like, a man, bloody, sticky hands at the window. And I'm just like, oh my God. So I like scoop him up, take him to our bedroom, get my husband up. And I'm just like, you're not going to believe this. And I'm like looking at him, like trying to whisper to him so that the little one doesn't hear me. But I'm like, he's talking about the man with the bloody, sticky hands at the window. And my husband looks at me, eyes wide open. And at this point, my youngest, he's like, bloody, sticky hands. There's a man with bloody, sticky hands at the window. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, we have to move immediately. And luckily we moved not too shortly after that. But it's just so crazy because after that happened and just those instances of just that one time of happening for each boys never gets mentioned again. I would say while we were living in the home, I would see what I thought was maybe like a silhouette or like a black shadowy figure, like looking down the hallway from my living room. But it wasn't anything that like I really thought much of because I'm like, oh, your mind's just playing tricks on you, that sort of thing. I have tried doing some research on it to see if maybe there is some sort of spirit or demon or anything like that, but nothing that I could find. But I don't know. Let me know. Like, have you guys ever experienced this? Have you ever had your babies talk about a man with bloody, sticky hands at the window? Because it's just like nuts and so scary. And I even just hate talking about it right now. I'm sure I'm going to have nightmares tonight. Yeah, anyways, so there's that.
When my daughter was 3, she came in my room in the middle of the night, woke me up and said, Mommy, can you please get the little girl out of my room? And I'm sleeping. I'm like, what little girl? She's like, the little girl, she's jumping on my bed. She wants to play with me. She won't get out of my room. I'm like, oh, just sleep with me. So she slept with me. The next day, I didn't think anything of it. Then she comes to me and says, I'm so sick of Daddy moving my toys around in my dollhouse. He comes in my room and plays with my dollhouse and moves them all around. I'm like, I highly doubt your father's doing that. He probably banged into it by accident, making your bed or something. This went on for pretty much every morning. Somebody's rearranging my dollhouse. Didn't think anything of it at all. The only reason I thought of it was because one night me and my husband come in from outside and our oldest daughter comes and says, oh my gosh, Mom, Dad, the freakiest thing just happened. And we're like, what? And she's like, I came downstairs and Jen was in the kitchen. And then I see her walk by. So I walk to follow her in her room to see if she's okay. And I see her in her bed sleeping. But she was just walking. So I wanted to make sure that she wasn't tricking me. So, I tried to wake her up, but she was sleeping. She wasn't joking. I think I saw a ghost. And I'm like, oh crap. oh crap, Jennifer said there was a little girl in her room. I wonder, So the next day I say to Jennifer, what does the little girl look like? And she said, she has long blonde hair, blue eyes, and she's white. She looks like me. Okay, because my daughter had long blonde hair, blue eyes. And I said, is she your age? And she said, no, she's younger than me. She's probably 2 or 3. Now my daughter was 4, maybe 4.5. So I'm like, holy crap. So, I'm on the phone with my mom and my sisters, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. And I'm like, what the hell do I do? And my sister reminds me, I trash picked that damn dollhouse, like right when this whole thing started going. But you don't notice little things, right? I was like, oh my God. I brought a spirit into my house by trash picking this like handmade built dollhouse I thought was beautiful. And that's the dollhouse the furniture was being arranged in. Her furniture, it didn't come with furniture. I just trash picked the dollhouse. Anyway, long story short, we ended up burning the dollhouse in the fire pit to try to get rid of the spirit. And then maybe 6 months later, my daughter comes to me and says, oh my gosh, Mom, we burned that little girl's dollhouse. And then she burned our house down because we were living in a hotel because our whole entire house burned down. Coincidence or creepy crawly? I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know how long I've been waiting for this. 2000.